All right, this is the fucking second episode of the CADCAST. Um, yeah, I'm back at this shit. Fuck it. So today, as you know, this is the CADCAST. I am Cad, of course, and I have my co-host here for the first time, fucking Chris.
Let's go, boy.
This is the CADCAST. We have a topic for today, which we're gonna get into a little bit, but we're gonna start off with some general shit because fuck it. So,
I like
all
it.
right. So, Chris, how does it feel to be on
Yeah,
the
what's
fucking
up?
CADCAST?
Well, it feels great. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but I just haven't had the time. And whenever I have the time, you don't have the time. And we're finally have the fucking time to record this stupid ass CADcast. Let's go.
It's interesting how fucking schedules don't line up at all sometimes.
No,
But
right,
yeah,
bruh?
it's good to be back in the CADcast. I got morale is high. We're doing good here in the CADcast.
Yeah.
So regarding the first episode, some interesting feedback. So for everyone at school that gave me feedback, I appreciate it. Whether it was constructive or not doesn't matter, but I still appreciate all of it. So thank you. And I hope that this show continues to be entertaining to many. And we'll just see what fucking happens. I don't know. I'm not looking for fame or anything. We're just here to have fun. It's conversation time.
Have fun. It's just fun times.
That's right. All right. So, like I said, we do have a topic for today, which we're going to get into in just a little minute. But, Chris, I think you told me you have some very important business to discuss here, considering this is a platform for people to hear. You have
Are we
some
talking about
information.
my 3 points I need to bring up?
I think you have 3 bullet points. So I'm going to give you the floor. You go
I
ahead.
have 3 bullet points I need to talk about. Just get this out of the water. So, first bullet point. I am not a furry. Just get that out there right now. Not a furry is a huge difference. I'm talking a huge difference between furries and cat girls. Big difference. What you see a cat girl is said woman dresses up with cat ears, tail, and with the cat teeth, pointy teeth like that.
And cat girls are usually dressed traditionally in maid outfits.
Usually maid outfits or just random underwear, lingerie. Depending on how the mood is. A furry creeps dress up in like animal suits and get pet by children.
And then they wear diapers at conventions.
Yeah. The big difference between those two. Okay. Next point.
Now, hold on. Before we go on, let me tell you this. Are you considered a furry? And I don't want to get into some hardcore topics considering this is only the second episode. But are you considered a furry if you beat it once to furry porn?
I would say no.
If you don't regularly indulge in furry porn,
I wouldn't say you're a furry. I would say you're just experimenting a bit.
Right. Now I'm not speaking for myself.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
So I'm speaking for the young boys and girls that are listening to the CADcast. Okay, but we have this clear. Chris, by his word, is not a furry, and cat girls are not furries. So we can second point.
Second point. Liking traps ain't gay. Let me get further into this detail. Depending on the type of interest you have for traps, it's a completely different story. There's people who have sexual interests in traps. People who just want to do weird stuff. That's not me. I would consider myself someone who's just fascinated by a trap. Not wants to make sexual contact.
What about traps fascinates you?
The fact that fascinates me is that how dudes dress up as women not be figured out as a dude until they're caught doing dude stuff, or they're changing and they see a dick. It fascinates me how people get away with that. Plus, some traps look better than women these days.
That's a hot take.
It is. Especially if we're talking anime traps. They're usually better looking than the females in the anime. Which
Unless you're watching an anime with some plot.
You're watching a plot-based anime.
In that case, I think anything's good.
Anything's fine in a plot-based anime.
That's right. We don't discriminate here at the CADCAST with plot-based anime.
No. Plot-based anime is we don't discriminate. You can like any type of anime.
We are very open here at the CADCAST.
Yes, we do not discriminate.
Okay. Now so traps are okay. You say traps are not gay. My question is, this is a little off topic with your thing, but is pegging gay?
Okay, now.
And when I say pegging, here's what I'm referring to. I am not referring to a guy having sex with another guy.
That is being gay.
That is gay. But if a girl is using a strap-on to peg a guy, is that gay?
These are the interesting questions. I mean, let's see. Let's put a hypothetical out there.
Okay.
Dude, it's girl. Couple months into it, they want to do a little sexy stuff.
Okay.
The first time you see her bring out a strap on.
Okay.
She says she wants to experiment. I feel like once it shouldn't be.
Okay.
But if it keeps happening every time you do sexy stuff, it's gonna start getting into the weird territory.
Here's my stipulation.
Into gay territory.
Here's my stipulation. I think the difference between whether or not something's gay or straight is determined based off the person you're doing with. Because if you're doing butt stuff with your boy,
that's
like
gay.
that would be gay. But if you're doing butt stuff with your girl, that shouldn't be gay.
Okay.
I've not experimented myself, and I'm gonna make that clear. And if there's any,
nope.
And if there is any speculation that I have, that's for you to decide. But I'm telling you purely that I have not. But
I've not partaken in the pegging.
Biologically, with the prostate, it apparently feels good. So is that gay?
Isn't the prostate considered the G spot or one of the G spots?
I suppose.
Yeah.
So then would that be gay?
Well, considering what you've brought out, the stipulations you put out, if it's a dude and a woman, technically that wouldn't be considered gay. It's not.
It shouldn't be gay.
Two dudes.
You're right.
It would just be normal sexual relations.
Again, if it was two guys, that would be gay.
That would be gay.
And again, we here at the CADCAST don't discriminate. If you're gay, you like doing gay stuff, you go for it, dude. Fuck it. Go fuck it up.
Literally. Yeah, basically. But
this is critical conversation that we must have in this day and age. Okay, but we've determined here traps by your description are not gay. Now, here's the thing that brings me up though. Can you enjoy traps without being sexually interested in traps?
You're talking me personally or just
I'm speaking generally because if what you brought up, if you like traps, you are gay. But people can like characters and not be sexually attracted to them.
Yes. I mean, if you're a dude, you like a trap but are not sexually aroused by said trap, that wouldn't be considered a gay motive.
Right. So then, okay. So I think, okay, the if you enjoy a character for their character, it's not gay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you routinely get off to traps, knowing they are traps and have dick, is that gay?
If it's a frequent thing you do as a dude, a trap in which you know is a dude, I would consider that some type of gay, yes.
Okay, we've determined it. But would you say it's less gay than like just looking up like live action gay videos?
I wouldn't say so because technically it's not real.
So I mean, it doesn't.
It's just something someone made up.
Right. It's not. Yeah.
Live action gay stuff, that's real.
No,
That's
that's like a
actually
different
two
thing.
dudes
Yeah.
owning each other.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Bring up your third point.
Third point, femboy hooters. Oh, this was a couple days ago, say 2 to 3. We started talking about femboy hooters and if it's weird as a dude to go to femboy hooters, and as well as if your waiter actively starts flirting with you, is it gay to flirt back while both knowing it's not going to go anywhere? It's just friendly flirting.
Here's the point I want to bring up first of all. If
Okay.
okay then, so if let's say hypothetically it's gay to go to femboy hooters as a guy. Let's just say we haven't determined yet, but let's just say.
Yep.
In
Hypothetically,
that case, then is it gay for a girl to go to normal hooters?
no, because I wouldn't say so. Because if we're talking hypothetically, it's gay as a dude to go to femboy hooters. If we're talking hypothetically, some would consider that a female going to Hooters depends. Are they going to Hooters for the food, or are they going to Hooters for the women?
Right.
If they're going to Hooters for the food, that's not gay. You're just trying to get a nice meal. But if you're actively going to Hooters for the women, that would be considered being a little gay, as you're just going there to creep on women.
Right. If you do go to Hooters to creep on women, fuck you. I'm just gonna say right now. They are
Sad.
working. They probably
They're
don't
trying to
want
make
to
a
be at
living.
Hooters. Yeah, I mean, people work at Hooters for different reasons, but they're at least working. So fuck out of here. Any Hoosies. So okay, is it gay to go to femboy? Is it gay to flirt with the femboys at femboy Hooters?
In my opinion, it depends on whether or not you flirting with the waiter, your waiter, you are hoping and trying to make the flirting turn into some sort of sexual contact. If you are flirting just to flirt, both knowing it's not going to go anywhere, I would consider that not being gay, just friendly flirting. But if you're hoping and wishing that it's going to go somewhere and it does, I would consider that gay.
Sure. I suppose so, yeah. I think it should be a person by person basis, because in my mind, if someone flirted with a femboy at femboy Hooters, in my mind that's kind of gay. But I think it's person by person basis on whether or not it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, okay. I see where you're going with this.
Right. I think many things can be person by person basis on whether or not they are gay or not. I think it's all up to the person's comfortableness level. Comfortableness level,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
so,
okay.
That's my opinion on it. But we have those are the 3 points.
Those are my 3 points I wanted to bring up, yes.
And let's do a quick recap.
Okay, so point 1. I am not a furry, and there's a difference between furries and cat girls. Point 2 is liking traps gay. Point 3 was the femboy Hooters, is it gay?
Okay. So there. Write that down in your notes.
Put those in your notes, kids.
We're going to need that for the test on the next CADCAST, so make sure you have those.
The next CADCAST is going to be a test, so make sure to get these notes down.
Right. And you don't want to, it's going to be a no-notes test. It's not open notes, so you make sure you study. All right. Well,
Okay.
that was our first half of the show, and if you survived that, good job. And now for the second point, I want to bring up a discussion, and this will be our topic for the show. Consider what we just talked about, sort of was the appetizer. Welcome to the main course. We're gonna consider this, like I said, this is the main topic. So my thing that I want to talk about has to do with video games. Surprise, fucking surprise. And more specifically, if storytelling and more specifically good storytelling makes a good game, and what constitutes a good game in the eyes of the general public, because games are very subjective to people.
Yes.
And so what I want to begin with, I want to give some examples of some games with good storytelling, in my opinion. Chris and I are very, very invested in storytelling games and other genres of games also. I believe we've both played many types. Not
could be
just
considered gamers.
To be considered, we are gamers. We're just going to get that out there now. So put that in your notes. But some examples, okay? Some very popular examples. People would say that the Elder Scrolls series is a very notable story-driven game, more specifically an RPG. And if there's any boomers in here, that stands for role-playing game. And the Elder Scrolls has been around for a very, very long time, ever since, I think, the 1990s. And
yeah, I believe the first one came out sometime early 1990s.
And it continues to be very successful with Elder Scrolls Online, which say what you will about that. I'm not going to get into that, but that's one of them. Another one that Chris and I are very invested in is Fallout. Fallout came out in 1997 with the first game, I believe. Actually, I think it was 96. Was it 96 or 97? Do you know?
It was one of those two dates.
Okay, I would check my Steam, but I don't care. So Fallout 1 came out sometime in the 90s, and then it had a very interesting history, which I don't want to get into at some point, because at some point later on, I want to have a specific Fallout show. But be aware that Fallout has a very deep lore with a lot of times, lots of moving parts, and a lot of backstory. I would consider Fallout one of the most rich and one of the most high quality of storytelling games.
I definitely agree with you there.
And Fallout is also an RPG, much like the Elder Scrolls. And then also, you have all these modern games, which are usually one-offs, but they have very detailed stories too. Quick examples would be like the Witcher series, which was made by CD Projekt Red and was very popular. The new God of War, I've heard, had a really deep story, and that was by some people, I don't fucking know, and that was on the PlayStation 4. And the Borderlands games also have surprisingly a story you wouldn't expect it. And then Assassin's Creed, of course. So, first of all, what do you think makes a substantial story for a video game?
Okay, well, what I feel would make a substantial story as a game is if a game has a story that is well involved into the gameplay, it isn't just something that's figured out in the background. What is more important, I would say, I shouldn't say more important, is a little more important, I guess, than more. It's the same thing. Is more well-meaning the actual gameplay, having the gameplay still just as good, will constitute a game with a good story. You're talking about like the Fallout series and Elder Scrolls. It's good gameplay, even great gameplay, still having a fantastic storyline, deep lore.
Right. And I want to give a compare and contrast with what Chris said. He mentioned how a good story should most of the time not a good story should be interlocked with the good gameplay. And I think to an extent, good gameplay is more important than a story, but that's just subjective also. But I want to give a compare and contrast to two of the Borderlands games. Chris has played through Borderlands 3, and so have I. And I assume you've played through Borderlands 2.
Yep.
Okay, and so then I want to give compare and contrast between them. Borderlands 2 has a very good story, I think. I think it's one of the best stories with some of the best characters ever in games.
Yeah.
And if you are ever at all interested in Borderlands, I wholeheartedly recommend you try Borderlands 2. It is worth it. And that game made you feel like a badass. And I get that was their whole slogan for their marketing, but it does. It really does. You feel enveloped in the story, and you feel like your actions matter when it comes to it. It puts you as the player at the forefront of the story and action, and it gives you your satisfaction for knowing that you did a positive thing or that you changed the world. It gives you that. And now, comparing to Borderlands 3, which I feel in its own way is a very good Borderlands game also. However, if you pay attention, and I should get into this first of all, there's going to be Borderlands 3 spoilers, so if you care, I'm just letting you know. But
skip ahead.
Borderlands 3, in many key aspects of its story, robs the player of satisfaction. And one example I can give is near the end, actually at the end, when you kill Tyreen the Destroyer. Is that it? Or is it the Warrior? No, the Warrior's the one from the second game.
Warrior is Borderlands 2, yeah. Tyreen
the Destroyer. When you kill her, there's a cutscene where it gets rid of your player character, and it gives all of the glory to 3 characters who are side characters and are not playable at all in the game. And it paints them as the hero. And it removes the glory that you have gotten for saving the world and defeating the bad guys. Is that inherently a negative thing? No. But with Borderlands, since its very beginning, been focused on making the player feel like a badass and a hero, it seems strange for them to, at this point, rob that of you and give it to side characters. Do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah, like the first 2 Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, they made you feel like a god while you were playing, like you couldn't be defeated. When you killed the final boss, they gave you that satisfaction of killing the final boss. Then you go to Borderlands 3, and you, who does all the hard work, defeat the final boss. Then they cast you aside and put Lilith, Annis, and Ava, who no one likes. Throw them in the spotlight as the heroes of Pandora. But it's just like, really? I did all the work. I did everything needed. And you just say, hey, sure, these 3 women can do what they want and have the power. It's like, seriously, dude?
And I want to make a statement now. There's nothing wrong with female characters in games, if that's the vibe you just got from that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put that vibe out there. I'm not saying there's things wrong with female characters. I'm just saying they made it so those 3 female characters seemed like they won. I have nothing against female characters, women empowerment. That's just my example I used.
And I should also mention, Borderlands 3's story is very much focused on sirens in Borderlands, which, besides 1, have all been females. And out of all of the games in Borderlands, the series, 3 has the most to do with sirens, and that's okay. I found that whole subplot and idea to be interesting to an extent. I don't know how well it was handled, really, but it was okay. But that still doesn't justify the fact that as a player, you did all the work you did, and it instead casts it away to 3 sirens and gives it their moment, even though you fought and you had to go through that kind of shit. So that's my compare and contrast between 2 games of the same series, but have very different very different, what's it called? Uses of a story.
Aspects.
Yes. Now, does a good game, and this should be common sense, but it's worth bringing up. Does a good game require a good story?
I would say that not all games are required to have a good story. Like, if we're gonna put up a game that has an okay story, or that's implied as through the gameplay would be Minecraft. Minecraft is a great game. The story technically isn't really told to the player. It's just you find out the story as you're playing.
And the story of Minecraft is barely even involved
Yeah.
in the story. It is literally just a text scroll at the end of the game. That's a good example. And Minecraft, in my opinion, is a very good game. It is the
It's a good
best-selling
game.
game. It is the best-selling game of all time. It's played by millions of people every day, everywhere, on basically everything. I wouldn't be surprised if it's on a fucking clothing iron at this point. And I think Minecraft is a very good game, and yet I don't play it for the story. And that's a good point too. Good games do not need really a good story, and you don't need to enjoy games for their story. I mean, for fuck's sake, people Tetris was like the fucking second best selling game too
This was the bomb.
Until Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, but that's a separate thing.
All you did was just put pieces on pieces.
That game has no story, and if it did, I think that would be fucking stupid. If Tetris had a story,
A Tetris story mode, bruh.
could you imagine? Now, here's another point too. Does a story pose a detriment to some games? Should a story be forced onto games sometimes?
It depends on the type of game you are putting out. Like, if you're putting out a game like the Call of Duty series, that's a series that is highly dependent on the story. If you were to make a Call of Duty game without the story, it would ruin just what Call of Duty is all about. So, in my opinion, no. Okay, so we got the Call of Duty example out there. What other examples of games do that that are dependent on a story, and if you take the story away, you destroy the game?
I think, and this is subjective too, because I know a lot of people like turn-based RPGs, and if you do, okay. But I think any turn-based RPG without their story is immediately a piece of shit.
Yeah, like
Final Fantasy, at least the earlier ones. If you got rid of the story, fucking garbage. Pokemon games, if you got rid of the story, garbage.
Oh, yeah.
I think many MMOs, like World of Warcraft, if you got rid of their story, that'd be fucking shit too.
Yeah.
So, as a genre, I think turn-based RPGs, if you remove their story, they turn out pretty shitty.
Yeah.
So I think those games are very dependent on their story. An example of another game that doesn't put too much weight on their story like Minecraft is, and this one might surprise you, Final Fantasy 15, which is the latest in the series up until 16 comes out, which besides the point, but hell yeah. Final Fantasy 15, unlike many other games in the Final Fantasy series, isn't focused too much on the story, and much rather the gameplay. And I've played a decent amount of Final Fantasy 15, not as much as I would like, but it definitely does not force the story onto the player, and it opens up a lot to exploration. And exploration in games, I think, is as important to story, even more maybe.
I personally haven't played I would say any Final Fantasy games. Which, shame on me, I need to, because what I've seen, they look really good. With the Final Fantasy 15, the new one that came out, the videos and stuff I've watched on them, most of the videos I've watched are people just exploring the map. I've rarely watched one that deals with them doing the story.
Right.
If we're gonna bring in like Skyrim, it's a story-based game. But as soon as you complete the first mission, you can do whatever you wanted. You could put hundreds of hours into that game and not complete the main story at all.
Which I have done.
Yes.
I have not beaten the main story, and yet in my times where I play Skyrim, I don't play Skyrim much. I don't know. I prefer Fallout, but Skyrim, the times I have, I've barely done shit with the story.
Yeah. It's the game. It's the type of game that you're thrown in there and you can do whatever you want. You don't have to touch the main story if you don't want to, and still have loads of fun.
Yes. So far, I think we've determined a good story makes a good game sometimes. It has a lot of power over a game. But not every game, and it shouldn't be every game, needs a story.
Yeah.
And there's some very prime examples of games that don't need stories, and some very prime examples of games that really, really do need stories.
Yeah, there's both sides of the spectrum in order to make you either can make a game with a good story, or you make a game with no story pretty much, still put out a banger of a game like Minecraft.
And for another point, should a story be in your face or not? Should it be subtle?
It depends on the type of game. Like if we go back to the Call of Duty series, that's the type of story that's definitely thrown straight into your face. Other games, let's see, what other games would be considered a story? Not subtle hints.
Maybe not many people know this, but a game I'm going to bring up, very old, the Myst game. Do you know what Myst is?
No, I don't believe I know what that is.
Okay, Myst was an old PC point-and-click adventure game that had a story. It's like a point-and-click puzzle game. Myst is, and the story of Myst it exists, and they actually wrote books about the story of Myst, and they made many, many sequels about it. So okay, but the story of the first Myst is not thrown in your face, and it leaves you as the player to have to discover it, and it doesn't tell you much. And I don't know if you know this game either, but a more recent example would be the Outer Wilds, not the Outer Worlds, which is a separate thing, but the Outer Wilds, which is another kind of puzzle mystery game, leaves you with a simple task at the beginning, and then you have to go out into the world and just find things on your own and piece together a story. So there are games where a story is very heavily forced, and forced isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a negative connotation, but games like you said, like Call of Duty, probably the Borderlands games, honestly.
Yeah, I'd say Borderlands game is definitely a very direct story.
Right. And then most of the Bethesda games, which are the people who make the the Elder Scrolls, and now Fallout, they don't force the story on you too much unless you want it to be forced upon you.
Yeah. It's the type of game where if you want to mainly do story, you can do the story. It's not thrown at your face. It's more of a, hey, it's here. You can do it if you want.
Right. And so, with that being said, let's make some final remarks. So, does a game need a story? No, not generally.
No, it doesn't.
Not every game needs one, and not every game should have one. Because if every game had a story, I think it would be goofy to an extent. Who the fuck wants to play? Who wants to play Draw with Friends with a fucking story?
So, or like Minecraft, where it's just story-based Minecraft.
Right. And does a good story make a good game? Yes.
Not all the time.
Not all the times, but yes, sometimes.
Most times it does, but there are some rare cases where a good story doesn't always make a good game.
Like, I should say, the most important thing when it comes to games is gameplay, and that's a fact, and we're not going to dispute that. And so if your game's gameplay sucks shit, but it has a good story, that that's where stuff gets pretty foggy and tough to describe if it's a good game or not. Is direct storytelling better than vague storytelling?
I would say not all the time.
I think it's dependent.
We'll bring back the Call of Duty and Skyrim. Call of Duty is a very direct story, while Skyrim is very little direction.
Right, and
Skyrim is a way better game than most of the Call of Duties that have come out in recent years.
Right, and when it comes to games and developers, there are very specific feelings and moods that developers want to get across to you. And so if a direct story helps succeed at what they're trying to get at, then that's the probably story type they need. But if a game wants you to think, or a game wants you to figure it out for yourself, it's most likely going to be a very vague story, to none story at all. Minecraft, The Outer Wilds, shit like that. And so we're going to wrap up the CADCAST here. Good stories sometimes make good games, and stories are important to games when they apply, but stories should not be forced onto games. And like I said, I'm planning to have a Fallout specific show sometime in the future, which would probably be focused on the lore of it, because Fallout has a very deep lore, and many other games have a very deep lore, and those could be considered story in their own right. And is deep lore needed for a good game? No. You can just enjoy a game because of the game. You don't have to get too deep into it.
You don't have to go scrambling through the lore just to have a good game.
Right. And so, with that being said, if you've listened to this CADCAST all the way through, or listened to it at all, I thank you for listening. It means a lot. Expect Chris to be here very often and very regularly for many discussion. Expect guests in the future. And again, I just thank you for listening. If you have any recommendations or constructive criticism, please let me know. I want to try to make this show as interesting and enjoyable as possible. And I think that's about it. Do you have anything to say?
Nope, I think you pretty much covered it.
All right. So thank you for listening to the CADCAST.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. And I look forward to the rest of it in the future. But thank you for listening to the CADCAST. You can follow me on Twitter because I need some. I'm fucking dying. I need the clout, please.
The clout.
All right. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.